So we have the weekly market update for the 5th of September 2012. We've got RP Data's senior analyst with us, Cameron Cusher. Hello Cameron, how are you?
I'm well, thanks. How are you?
Good. So I guess everyone would like to know what you make of yesterday's interest rate decision.
Yeah, probably not really that surprised. Obviously, a lot of the information that's come out over the last couple of weeks has been somewhat more negative probably than most people suspected, particularly with a slowdown in China and commodity prices falling and some big ticket construction and mining jobs put on the back burner for the time being. But the Reserve Bank still has time on their side, so not really a big surprise to see them decide not to cut interest rates. But certainly looks like we may get some interest rate cuts further down the track if the economy continues to go this way.
And how's the Adelaide real estate market performing from your perspective?
Well, looking at the data that we released earlier this week, it showed that over the month of August, values in Adelaide actually picked up by 1.4%, but it's been a pretty weak quarter throughout winter. For Adelaide, values were down 2.2% in Adelaide, whereas in all other capital cities they actually picked up over the 3 months to August. So across the combined capital cities, values are up 1.6%, and Adelaide values were down 2.2%. So hasn't been a particularly strong winter for Adelaide, but it's been a little bit abnormal outside of Adelaide in those other capital cities to see reasonably strong results throughout winter, and largely we're saying that's the result of a lower interest rate environment finally starting to have an impact on the market. Plus, some of the impact of the government handouts to lower income households that were done earlier this year as well.
So any reason why you think Adelaide's been down in comparison to the others, Cameron?
There's no real thing I can put my finger on. Maybe it has to do with people waiting to spring. Maybe it has to do with people waiting to see about what BHP would do with the expansion of Olympic Dam as well. So maybe a couple of those factors, but no solid evidence to suggest why it has been down. But as I said, winter's usually a very slow time for the housing market anyway, and particularly in Adelaide, that's the case.
So when you get these sorts of decisions with BHP, how long do you think it takes before people start to move on from that and go, okay, old news, moving on now?
Oh, look, I think it'll probably impact the market for a little while. Obviously, a lot of people will probably banking on that going ahead. I know last time I was in Adelaide, a lot of people were telling me that it's going to really help the market fire the Olympic Dam expansion. Now that hasn't gone ahead, I think people will dwell on it for a little while, but it gets to a point where you do have to move on from that. So I think it might have a little bit of an impact over the next few months, but nothing too significant.
So what do you think we can expect from the market in the next few months, especially now that spring is here?
Look, I think you'll probably see an improvement in sales volumes throughout spring, as you always do. You'll see more properties available for sale. You'll probably start to see a little bit of an improvement in auction clearance rates as well. Whether or not we start to see values grow consistently again, not so sure that's going to happen. But overall, I think that spring this year is definitely going to be a better outcome for sellers in the market, for people looking to buy, than it was last year. Obviously, last year's spring selling season was quite disappointing. In saying that, I don't think it will necessarily be as strong as the spring selling seasons we've become accustomed to over the last 10 or 15 years, but it will be an improvement from last year.
So could this be the new norm then?
Well, exactly right. I mean, we're seeing at the moment property values have fallen over the last year. They're down 2.4% nationally. They're down 4.2% in Adelaide. Credit growth's slow. Households are saving a lot more money. So things are really changing, and that's going to impact on the housing market, because it's obviously the highest commitment purchase that most people will ever make. So I think in the coming years it'll definitely get better, but it seems unlikely that we're going to get back to the same sort of conditions that we've seen over the last 10 or 15 years consistently.
And what about with first home buyers then, Cameron?
Sorry, I didn't catch that.
First home buyers, where do you think they'll sit with this?
First home buyers, so if we have a look at the data, the latest data, which is to June, there's been a little bit of an improvement compared to the same time last year in terms of first home buyers in South Australia, but there's still a fairly small overall portion of the market, only accounting for 14% of all owner-occupier purchases in June. So that's probably got a little bit of scope to increase, particularly given that interest rate cuts take a while to filter through into the market, and given that property values have been falling, and obviously that relates that results in property becoming relatively more affordable. So I think you might see a bit more first-home buyer activity over the next few months, particularly coming into the spring season.
Well, that's great. Thank you very much for that brief, Cameron. Excellent. Well, that wraps up this week's market update, and thank you, Cameron.
Thank you.